Hi everyone, and thanks for stopping by. This is the Pinecone pen on the Artemis by Bullseye Turning Supply. And I think I'm going to voice over this one instead of playing music. I added a little end piece here because when you turn the Artemis, you get a little divot in the end of your piece. So I added a little block just to help with the turning. The Artemis is on a mandrel, and I'm just turning this down carefully. You can see one of the other videos in my page, you can see one of the other videos where I actually broke this blank in half, trying to turn off that little block at the end. Adding a little bit of CA there to help control the voids from the pine cones. And this pen actually looks like a mermaid when it's said and done. So I'm just going slow, applying some CA here and there to fill the voids and prevent any blowouts from the pine cone flower, basically. This is where I'm turning off the end, and right before there is where I broke this blank in half. So go check that video out if you want to see how I fixed it. So now I'm just turning back the CA that I used to A, fix the blank, and B, fill the voids. So using my carbide tools. Now I'm sanding with an 80 because there was some pretty good ridges from that CA. So I just turned it back with an 80, and then I just started waffle sanding this blank just to kind of work out the ridges and smooth everything out without blowing this thing in half again. But it held pretty well. I was really surprised how well that held. And you can see I'm just kind of sanding, taking breaks to look it over, sanding again. That was some denatured alcohol. And then I used some boiled linseed oil just to kind of keep it, keep it moist without making it wet. So now I've moved on to the lid here. You can see I added another block to prevent the divot at the end. It is also on a mandrel. These blanks or these kits are no joke. They are really tough to work with, and there's a huge learning curve, but boy, are they pretty when they're done. I worked this down to about a 14 and a half, maybe 15 ish for the body and the cap. The cap is a couple millimeters, not a couple millimeters, but the cap, a couple millimeters bigger than the base. And that was me putting a little CA into the divots just to keep those pine cones from blowing out. You can see that sort of end there. And just grab the calipers to make sure that the cap is not too much bigger than the base, and managed to get that block off without blowing out the cap, which was great because I blew out the body. And there I'm just sanding it down. I sanded pretty aggressively with these because there was a little bit of shaping issue. My collet chuck was not running true, so I had a little bit of unevenness and that I was just trying to sand out. And also my boom where I keep my phone to video the turning, kept drifting down, so I had to keep pulling it back up. That's why you see this the consistency of the video here is so uneven, and I keep having to drift it and move it back up, and it keeps drifting and I keep moving it back up. But Anyway, this is the polishing stage. I'm putting on several layers of CA, thin and medium. So I probably put in total 5 layers all together. And I'm using just a little craft foam to apply those. This was the first time I've done that, but it seems to work pretty well. And it doesn't absorb the CA like the towels do. So I may do that again. And then I'm finishing up with, so I put the CA, sanded down to about 400, applied the CA, and then I used my micro mesh pads just because there was quite a few ridges still on the CA. So I used my micro mesh pads and then my Zona paper, well, my Fona paper, because it's faux Zona paper. It was counterfeit or something. Anyway, but it works, but it's not really Zona paper. So I used the fake Zona paper and then magic juice, which I am absolutely in love with now. I will never go back to not using magic juice on acrylics. And this pen is actually turning out quite beautiful. I would have liked to turn it back a little bit more, and I may go back and like throw it back on the lathe and turn it down a couple more millimeters. But for now, it's actually, I'm really happy with it. And so there you can see the magic juice layers going on. There's 6 different solutions, and you work them in, rub them off, kind of like a buffing. And I'm using the Scott shop towels. I find that they don't scratch as much as the cheapo shop towels that you can get in big box stores. Even though the Scott ones you can get there too. And now I'm switching over to the lid. You can see I put a piece of painter's tape on the mandrel to keep the CA from sticking. A couple layers of thin, a couple layers of medium, and I'm using Glue Boost CA platform. So the Glue Boost products and accelerator. And then you can see back again to the micro mesh, the Zona, and then I'm going to go back to magic juice. And then if you're hanging out to the end, you're going to be able to see the final product, which is pretty awesome. I think it came out really good. This was my first pine cone pour, so I poured this pine cone blank. I poured a couple of them. So pine cones with a mix of blues and a little bit of Zach Higgins glitter in the light blue. So you can see there that beautiful like sparkle